Hey folks, today we have the pleasure to host Jason for the third time. We brought him, I think, 1 year ago, or maybe even more, to talk about the notebook experience or the revamped notebook experience. Now he's back, but with another topic, but again, it's still on the dev experience. Hi, Jason.
Hey, Yosef. Yeah, thanks for having me. Great to be here. Yeah, my name is Jason for everybody. I'm a product manager here at Databricks. And right now I'm focusing on Lakeflow Designer, which is basically our low code data prep solution directly on Databricks. And it's hard to say this. I love notebooks a lot, but I think Lakeflow Designer is my favorite product that I've ever worked on. So I'm excited to talk to y'all more about it today. So I've got some slides in the demo. Should I just jump into that, Yosef? So I'm going to talk about Lakeflow Designer today, which is a brand new product that we've released in Databricks recently. We just went to public preview. And really the goal with Lakeflow Designer is helping your organization scale their ability to make data-driven decisions. And what we mean by that is we want to allow everybody to be able to prepare data and then make decisions based on that data. So just to kind of start with some background, right? Everything that you do on Databricks and with data depends on good data. Whether you're building AI models, whether you're building apps, whether you're building dashboards, you need to have good data that is the foundation for that. But the problem is that the people with the deepest understanding of the business are generally not the ones who can prepare good data. So in other words, the people who often need to make decisions based on the data are not the people who can prepare that and self-serve and create that themselves. So that creates the need for low-code self-service tools. And we're definitely not the first people to notice this need. There's a lot of other really, really great tools in the market that help do this. For example, Alteryx, Data IQ, and there's also other like spreadsheet or other no-code tools like Excel and Google Sheets. But the challenge is that when you work with these existing low-code tools, the data work kind of happens in two separate worlds. So in one world, you have your Databricks environment or your central data platform, which is everything's governed, everything runs in production there. There's, just things like this is really what's built for production. And you have kind of these low code tools. They live outside of this governed environment. They're often on people's local machines where people are doing things with spreadsheets. And so this creates kind of a bit of conflict. The first is that you have tool sprawl. So nobody likes to have 100 different data tools. And so it's not fun to have your central data platform and then go get different low code tools. And when you do that, it creates some issues like with governance, for example, where you can't govern the tool use and the data that goes through these other low code tools because they're not kind of in a central environment. It also creates duplication of your work. So you might do one thing on a low code tool that's on somebody's local machine. That gets done on multiple people's local machines and is maybe also done on the central data platform. And just generally, it can create inconsistency. The second big problem here is that you have trouble when you need to bring these things to production. So maybe I built out this workflow. I've got like 200 little boxes that I've dragged and connected together, and I do this awesome thing. Now, once I find this is useful and I want to hand it to the central data engineering team to productionize it, the data engineering team gets it. They're like, whoa, there's like 200 boxes on the screen. How am I supposed to productionize this? And that becomes somewhat challenging to do. So that's another challenge. And then the third is these tools, because they live outside of the central data platform, they live outside of Unity Catalog, and they don't have access to the rich metadata that you could have if you built something directly in the central data platform. And then kind of undercutting all of this is we often see with these tools is there's expensive per user licensing. And so before you even start, you have to pick which users you think will be worth it to give and pay this fee for, which also limits who can use these tools. So our solution to this, our answer to this is Lakeflow Designer. It's no-code data preparation directly inside of Databricks, native to Databricks. And there's a couple things to call out here that are cool with it. One is it's drag and drop, so it's super easy to put together. It's AI native, and so it uses Unity Catalog, uses all of the metadata to be able to help you transform your data. And we built it from the ground up using AI. So hopefully, as I'll show later, there's a lot of experiences that are very intuitive and very powerful because we leverage AI. And then everything is backed with production-ready code so that you can then go to production. So ultimately, what this means is that you have a fully self-service, fully governed capabilities directly in Databricks. There's no challenges with governance. Everything you do in it is fully governed. You have a simple path to production as everything's backed in production ready code and it sits in your data platform already. If you want to take it and schedule it or put it as part of a production job or a pipeline, you can do that really easily. And then, as I mentioned earlier, everything is AI native and reviewable. And so one of the challenges that we've been seeing is that LLMs are really great at generating responses and answering questions, but often it's really hard to validate and trust and really know what was happening. Unless you're really good with code, you get 1,000 lines of code. You're like, man, how do I understand what's going on? The cool thing about Lakeflow Designer is it breaks things up into atomic operations, and you can see the flow of data. You can see step by step how it's changing to really understand what Genie Code was building, for example. And then finally, this is all native to Databricks with consumption-based pricing. And so again, you can enable all of your users to use this tool, and you don't have to pay a big fat fee upfront to do that. You only pay for the data that you use, which is another great thing. And so ultimately, we hope together this will help you scale your organization's ability to make data-driven decisions. Now, that's enough slides. For those of you who know me, I usually go stick with short slides because I like to demo for the majority of the time. So I'm going to jump over into a demo right now. Any comments or thoughts so far, Yosef, or should I just jump into the demo?
I think Databricks is really going towards this democratization of the data to business users. It all started with first with Genie, AI Genie. We added the dashboard. Now recently, Genie Code, the
Right,
possibility to view or to consume all those assets using Databricks one.
right,
And in addition, now we can also start everything from the ingestion. You can literally use Databricks Connect with the
right,
UI, this connector, to bring data to Unity catalog or
right.
govern it through Unity catalog. And then you can take those tables and create your own create your own transformation or KPI using of course Lakeflow Designer, and then out of those KPI you can build your semantic layer using Genie Code, and then you
Right.
can bring this Genie Code inside AI Genie, and you can also build your own dashboard that you can consume through Databricks through Genie. I
Yeah,
was about to
exactly.
say Databricks one, and of course, everything can be accessed in your mobile phone, whether you have an iOS or Android, and without writing a single line of code. And this is just amazing.
Yes, yeah. We complete kind of the end-to-end journey with your data. And that's where I think Lakeflow Designer fits in here, because previously, if you wanted to transform and prepare your data, right, you could do the dashboarding, you could do all that stuff. But if you wanted to prepare the data, that would require, you could use Genie Code, but it would create code that you couldn't really understand. So we're kind of bridging that gap now, and giving you a low code way to do that. So I totally agree, right? And for those like, 2 years ago, Databricks might have been seen as a very technical platform that was only for data engineers. That is very different now. And I think, as you'll see with Lakeflow Designer, this is another tool in your tool belt that will help anybody, really, anyone who can speak a language, to be able to transform their data. Um, so let's jump in. So to start, I guess let's just show how you get into Lakeflow Designer. So the first thing you do is you go to the new menu, and we have this new object here called Visual Data Prep. And so I can click to create a Visual Data Prep. And then I get brought into the Lakeflow Designer starting home screen. I actually have a file already created, which is in a Git folder. So we'll go ahead and use that. But I just want to show you how to get into that. And then from here, the first thing that we need to do is we need to add data. We need to add data that we can then transform, prepare, and analyze. And so there's a few different ways to do that. And I do want to show you a few different ways because I think it will be helpful. The first is by creating just a plain source operator. So once I do that, I can say, hey, I can browse existing data that's in Uni catalog. I can create a table from a file. I can drag and drop from my local machine, or I can even connect to external sources like Google Drive or SharePoint. For this, I'll just show you, maybe I want to browse existing. I have some hotel properties data that I want to look at. And so then I can click that. And then in a matter of seconds, we should see a preview of the data. So we can see all of that really quickly here. Now, we could just, if I want to pull in some different tables, so if I wanted to, I could just go over here and add another source operator and go through and do that. But actually, I think the way that is the fastest and maybe the easiest here is if I go over to the Catalog Explorer here on the left panel, I'll search my name, Jason Messer, and then let's expand this list here. And then I can just drag tables directly in from that. So I can say, okay, hotel bookings, I want to add this.
Oh,
I'll add
that's
cities.
cool. I did.
And then I want to
I wasn't aware of this one.
Yeah, a lot of people aren't, which is why I wanted to show that. So you can really easily, pull your tables in directly from the side panel, which helps a lot. Another way that you can pull data in is just from your local machine. You can just drag and drop. So you all can't see. I don't think you can see my desktop, but I have a file here in my Finder, and I'm dragging it onto the canvas, and then just says, "Oh, hey, you want to upload this hotel's reviews?" And then I can just say where I want to put it. I just did overwrite because I've done this demo before, and so I have this file that already exists. And then I hit upload here, and it just pops in. And so voila, I was able to basically bring in a CSV just like that. And then in a matter of seconds, we should be able to um, see the CSV that I wanted. And so we find that, in a perfect world, maybe all of your data would be directly in Databricks, but in reality, nobody has all of their data directly in Databricks. And so we wanted to make it really easy to bring in local files into this experience so that you can combine that with your Databricks or your data that's on Databricks. Okay, awesome. Now that we have our data in, I guess I can give just a quick, brief overview of what we want to do. So this is data on different hotels. So we have the reviews, we have the cities, we have information on the properties and the booking information, like how expensive things were. And what I want to do is I want to first clean this data, and then I'm going to join it together to make a big table. And then I want to do some aggregations on it, because ultimately my boss said, "Hey, can you give me the data in this format?" So I want to have the city. We're at Barcelona. I want to have an average sentiment, an average response time, and an overall rating, and an average total cost. So that's my goal to get to this today. And so let's go and transform our data. So the first thing that I maybe want to do here is I want to make city tier an integer. So right now it's a string, tier one, tier two, for example, but it isn't super helpful for me. Is if I'm doing aggregations, I'd rather just have this be a number of 1, 2, 3. So I can go to Genie Code and just say make tier an integer, right? Really simple, using natural language. I didn't have to dig around in any UI anywhere. I was just able to ask a question and then get an answer. And then Genie Code's everything it does is agentic. Um, and so it went and it just created this new operator for me where it casted it to an integer. The cool thing about Lakeflow Designer is that we show you the input and the output side by side so they can really easily validate what happened. So for example, I can go to this row one. I see we have city ID 1, Barcelona, coastal, tier 1. Looks like coastal and then 1. And everything looks correctly. If I look down here at Lake Como, we have 3, Lake Como, tier 3, right? So I can really easily validate that this is in fact the response I want and hit accept. Okay. You're like, okay, Jason, that's an easy one. That's not too bad. Let's do something a bit more complicated. I agree. Let's do something a bit more complicated. If I go over now to the properties, I have this amenities column, and you can see it's like there's no spaces between these things. And generally, this is not very useful in its current form. So what I want to do actually is I want to take each amenity. So we have like AC, kitchen, parking, pet friendly, etc. I want to make these their own column. And then I want to have a true or false value, depending on if the property has that amenity. So this is going to be pretty complex if I was to do this, with code or doing the point and click way. But I can just, again, ask Genie Code. I can say, hey, go through the amenities column and break each amenity into its own column with a true or false value if that property has the amenity. Things like, for example, AC, true, kitchen, false, etc. And so then Genie Code's going to go away. And as I mentioned, everything's agentic, so it might have to, it might do a few little side explorations to find out how to do this, and then should come back with an answer for us here. Um, do you think you could do this, Joseph, if you had to do this by hand? Do you think you'd be able to do it?
Well, to be honest, I became, let's say, so lazy, and I know that the AI will be faster than me, so I'll
Exactly.
basically rely only on Genie code to do those kind of operation. And because everything is tailored, like we have the metadata, we have all the info, the LLM can only be, uh, let's say, more powerful. And yeah, I mean, if it can be done in 2 minutes, why should I code it? I mean, I would only review, I can only review what has been written to make sure it's perfect or it's good, and that's it.
Exactly. Exactly. No, I agree. You might be able to do it, but it's much faster to do it with AI. So It did it in about 20 seconds. Right when I asked you the question, it already had the answer. We can see we have a summary of the changes, what it did. And if we look at the output here, we can see that it looks like it got everything correctly. So now I'm going to accept this. All right, now the next thing I want to do is I want to join all these tables together. So again, I could click through here and I could say, okay, let me create a join node and drag things and connect it. But again, it's going to be way faster if I just say join with bookings, cities, hosts. Like I'm even going to leave the typo in there just to show hosts and reviews. And I'll say, don't keep duplicate columns as they are all the same.
Oh, that's one was painful. I remember when I used to join the tables together, and sometimes we have the same names, and then when
Yes.
I ran, I was like, "Oh, you have a duplicate column." Then you remove the first one, and then, hey, yeah, you have a second duplicate column, and then you keep repeating the process for like maybe 15, 16 times until you get rid of all those similar columns. So either rename them, which doesn't make sense because technically it's the same name, so have the same value, and it takes a very long time. I remember it was so painful.
Yes. Yeah. So here we go. We have the answer now. And so it looks like it joined with bookings first, and then cities, and then hosts, and then reviews here, which is great, right? And if I wanted to check the intermediate data at each step, right, I could do that. But I'll just go over to this final one and see. It looks like we have all the columns. We have the amenities joined. Looks like everything's good. If I wanted to, I could use the column explorer here to kind of scroll through and make sure I have everything that I want. But generally, it looks like everything is good here. So I will go ahead and accept that. Now I have one more thing that I want to enrich the data with before we do our aggregations, and that is going to be analyzing the sentiment of the comment column. So we mentioned, my boss wanted me to get the average sentiment. So first of all, I need to analyze the sentiment. And to do that, I can use an AI function. And one of the cool things is in Lakeflow Designer, we have AI functions built directly into it. So previously they were very accessible. You had to use SQL, but now you can just point and click to use your AI function. So I'll say I want to analyze the sentiment. We'll call this sentiment. And then I want to analyze the comment column and hit apply here. And it's pretty amazing that in a matter of seconds, we're going to have the sentiment for every single comment here, something that only a few years ago would have taken a long time to do. You have to import a custom library, run some Python code. Now, with point and click, you can just analyze the sentiment and apply that. So there we go. We have that. Okay.
That's what with what you're doing. That was basically the project that took me 3 months when I was working for a bank a
There you
few
go.
years back. And here I can literally see the pipeline that you have built for in like, I don't know, 5 minutes.
Yes, yes, yeah, exactly. I've been doing some cool stuff, but I think this next part is my favorite part of the demo, and it's a pretty cool part. So now we have the big table. Now we need to aggregate it, and we need to make it into the format. So let's go again and review this. So we want to take city, average sentiment, average response time, average fill cost, and then make it fit this format. I have like some decimal places. So there's 2 decimal places here. I only want 1 decimal place here. So I have a pretty specific format. Now I could go through and do this all by hand, but one of the cool things that we can do with Lakeflow Designer is the idea of transforming by an example. So I'm going to take a screenshot of this here. I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to hit this image icon, and then I'm going to upload the image here so that we have it. And I'm just going to say, make my data fit the format of this image. Now, while this is doing this, I want to talk about just how complicated this is in the first place. So the first thing is that we asked to do is average sentiment. Well, how do you have average sentiment when this sentiment column is a string? So implicitly, it's going to have to convert this into some numeric value that represents the sentiment. So that's like the first step that it's probably going to have to do. If I go over here, then I didn't talk about rounding anything. I just gave it a screenshot. And so I think we're going to find that it is going to be very smart and know how to round these things, right? It's going to find the details that we had. It's then going to do a bunch of different aggregations and then give us a final answer. So again, like if I was to do this by hand, it would take some time, right? It'd be possible and I could do it, but it would take some time. But if we go back over here, we can pretty much see that the first thing it did was it says, oh, hey, I want to do sentiment numeric. And it looks like it did this. And what I can do here now is I can see what it did. It generates a plain English description. It says, hey, I convert the sentiment text into a numeric score, 1 for positive, 5 for mixed, and 0 for negative, and null for any other value. That's like perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. the cool thing is if I wanted to tweak that, I can actually change the English here. So maybe I want -1 for negative. I can just change this to be -1. It changes the code, and then it will re-render for my my operator, right? So that's awesome. I can just hit apply to change that. Then it went over and it did an aggregation, and this will take a second to show. And then let's see over here. And then it went and formatted the report. So let's see. Okay, here's the aggregation now. So we can see it says, okay, now I know how to do the aggregation. I have all the information. Let me run this. And so we see it didn't have anything rounded here. And then if I click over to the format, it looks like it did all of the rounding. So I have the city, I have sentiment with 2 decimals, I have the average response time with 1, overall rating with 3 decimals, and then have the average cost rounded to the nearest whole number. And so we can see it did it. It did it for us, which is super awesome. And again, would have taken me a lot longer if I didn't just give it the screenshot example of how I wanted my data to look. So I don't know, Joseph. I think that's pretty cool. What do you think?
I lost words, to be honest. I think it's way easier because I can build the flow step by step compared to using Genie Code, where you gotta give the entire prompt and then keep adding. You can build the pipeline step by step to make sure everything is perfectly fine, and make sure that the next steps are also working well. So it's like in building brick by brick. So this is, for me, it's perfect tool for the analyst, but also data engineers that just want to go faster. You can build your pipeline or your transformation in brick by brick, and then you're sure every step is correct to move to the next one because it relies on the previous step and so on until you have a fully ready pipeline. And I think the things you didn't show them, that, if I'm not wrong, behind the scene, it's only SQL.
It's actually PySpark now. So we recently made a change to make it from SQL to PySpark just because it gave us more powerful capabilities. But it is like code behind the scenes, right? Which is the very important thing. So like the cool thing here is that if I wanted to take this and I wanted to put this in Git, for example, I could just click this Git modal, and then I have basically a PySpark notebook behind the scenes that I can store. I can put up in CI/CD, and I can do all of this stuff. So it's backed by code. It's directly in Databricks. So if I want to schedule this, right, I can add a schedule really easily. If I want to add this as a task to another production pipeline or job, I can do that really, really easily. So taking this, what we just built, behind the scenes, it's all performant PySpark code, which is really great. So I think, that's pretty much what I wanted to show you all today. And we're excited to see what you build with Lakeflow Designer, and let us know if you have feedback. We're obviously still pretty early in product development, so there's still some things we're perfecting. And if you have any ideas of how we could make it even more useful for you, we'd love to hear. So
if I'm not wrong, I guess that Lakeflow Designer is gonna be soon available on the Databricks free edition.
Yes, it should be available on free edition in a matter of days, actually. So by the time you all see this video, it will probably be available in free edition.
So go try it easily. Build your own pipeline, grab data from Kaggle, or maybe your data you have on your CSVs or whatever format. Drag and drop them like Jason shows you. Build your pipeline, and then use Genie to go and query your data. Like, give it a try. Trust me, you're gonna be amazed. This is your way. And then if you have any questions, you can reach out to Jason Mazer on LinkedIn.
Awesome. +1.
Thank you so much, Jason. And maybe we're gonna see you for the fourth time in a few weeks.
Yeah, I would love to. I'd love to come back and show you all the awesome features we have in the pipeline. There's a lot coming, so.
I have no doubt. Bye, buddy.
In Lake Cow. Rise data seas, lake flow streams the flow. Iceberg and Delta Lake, tables aglow. Unity catalog governs lake base, OLT base strong. Genie text to SQL, Mosaic and KI prolongs. Yusuf and Quentin, co-hosts like the